This tutorial is all about SQL, that is structured query language, and at the end of this tutorial you will be able to distinguish between SQL and what is MySQL, and you will be able to define SQL in a very clear and crisp manner. And this complete series will be the hands-on and pretty explanatory, uh, with detailed and conceptual knowledge with each and every topic covered. So let's get started with this tutorial. SQL is basically structured query language. That means it is a query language that is that will be working on structured data, right? That is the meaning of structured query language. Now let's get started. What is database? Database is a collection of data, right? As per the name database suggests. For example, when you go to a doctor's office and there is a filing cabinet full of medical records, so that has some data inside those files and cabinets. So that is the database for the doctor. Next one, if you prepare a to-do list with all the tasks you have to do and maintain what all the tasks you have done, what are in progress and what are yet to do. So that is the database for you, or data for you, which you prepare for yourself, right? Another example, a list of things to buy at the grocery store, where you will be purchasing this groceries, right? To remember what all things you need to purchase. Another example, a phone book, where all the names and their numbers are stored, right, in the alphabetical manner. Either it will be sort descent from Z to A or A to Z, based on like first name or the last name, right? All these are the examples of database. So another part of the definition is a method for accessing and manipulating that data. So if you have stored all such kind of data which I have given in the example, so you if you are storing that, you will have to access it and you may have to manipulate that data, right? So database will be that method of accessing and manipulating that data. You might have to update the data, you might have need to delete some data, you might have to insert some new data. For example, if you are preparing a to-do list or some uh, phone book, so you might have to add some data into it, or you might have to delete some of it which is not useful for you for the later purpose. So all these things comes under database. So that means database is a collection of data and a method of accessing and manipulating that data. That is database, right? Next is database versus database management system. So you might have heard these two terms, and database management system or relational database management system or DMS or RDBMS. All these are different acronyms or similar words. Having data, the collection of data, and having an interface for the data are two different things, right? For example, you have an application, let's say it's a dating app or some other app, and you have a database where you are storing all the sorts of information, all the different users, all the different messages that have been sent, the photos, and whatever else goes into your dating app. But on its own, the database here is basically like a phone book. It's a giant collection of data where it is great for storing the data, but it really doesn't let us do much. You can think of like as it was a gigantic file on your computer. So for our application to be able to do things like update somebody's username in the database or edit their profile photo or delete a user, if they want to leave our application, whatever it is, there is a database management system that allows us to interface with this data, right? So this application needs a DBMS to communicate with. So it's just the code or program that does the talking to our database for us. That means we talk to our database management system and it talks to our database. Oftentimes, we talk about a database, we are actually referring to both of these things, the database management system and the database together as a database, right? So, hope you understand the difference between database and a database management system. That means inside a database, you used to store the data, and using database management system you used to communicate with your data with the help of UI, and you can do upsert or any of the data manipulation inside your database with the help of DBMS. So this is the basic difference between database and DBMS. So here we will be having most common databases, right? PostgreSQL, Oracle database, MySQL, SQLite. So SQL is the most commonly used database. We usually write commands to interact with the database, but it actually happens like we give the commands to the database, which then gives command to the actual data itself or to the database itself, right? And these this common list of databases inside this, not actually the databases, but they are actually the database management systems, right? And if you know the SQL, if you know SQL, then it will be pretty easier to migrate or to ramp up on some other database, because SQL is the base for all the SQL types databases. Now we will be having the synthesized definition of database. A database is a structured set of computerized data with an accessible interface. So this tutorial tells told you the difference, what is SQL, MySQL, and what is the difference between SQL, database management system, and the database, right? So comment it down what you have understood in this tutorial, and if you want to add something that you know and not covered in this tutorial, that would be helpful. Let's come back in the next tutorial for with different understanding based on SQL and MySQL.